So this is the Clean Energy Ministerial side projects. Interesting. So this is the neighbors group, or owner of the neighbors group at the Clean Energy Ministerial. And so far, I have been set up here and lied to about carbon capture and how it's green. Well, let me tell you folks, it is not green. And this is like the second or third person that's been telling me about carbon capture. Look it up. They want to use hydrogen to think it's more green, but really it's not. And I can give more information on hydrogen and carbon capture because coming from this ministerial, I just really want our leaders and everyone else to know that it's not green. Carbon capture is not green. Don't be fooled. Do not be fooled. Okay? Here is one of the companies that I saw at the Clean Energy Ministerial that are pushing one of the false solutions that carbon capture is clean and green. You probably heard me talk about how I went to the Clean Energy Ministerial, also known as the Global Clean Energy Forum, where companies were telling people that carbon capture and blue hydrogen were clean. But I'm here to tell you that that's a false solution. And my name is Tiffany Allen, and I'll be talking to you all about the truth behind carbon capture and blue hydrogen. So now we'll be talking about what is carbon capture. Well, carbon capture refers to processes designed to collect or capture carbon dioxide generated by industrial processes such as coal, oil, gas-fired powered production, or plastic manufacturing, and then transport those captured emissions to sites where they're used for industrial purposes or stored underground. So next we'll be talking about why carbon capture is not a climate solution. So carbon capture does not remove carbon from the atmosphere, and it worsens the climate crisis when used to boost oil production. The Petronova capture carbon facility installed at a coal-fired power station near Houston in 2017 illustrates the failure of carbon capture to deliver meaningful emissions reductions. During its operation, the carbon capture system captured only 7% of the power plant's total carbon emissions, well below the company's promises to reduce carbon emissions by 90%. At present, carbon capture is not economically viable without enhanced oil recovery or production of combustible fuels, making the technology inseparable from the fossil economy. Enhanced oil recovery, or EOR, is a technique through which CO2, either from natural sources or captured carbon, is injected into underground oil reservoirs to boost oil and gas production from old wells. In essence, CO2 waste products from fossil fuel burning activity are used to generate more fossil fuels, propping up the unsustainable fossil fuel energy system. Also, carbon capture creates environmental, health, and safety risks for communities saddled with carbon capture infrastructure such as pipelines and underground storage. Transportation of compressed CO2 raises a host of health and safety concerns. Deployment of carbon capture will require a large network of pipelines, says IPCC. The presence of contaminants can make this condensed CO2 corrosive to steel. Explosive Decompression of CO2 pipelines releases more gas more quickly than an explosion in a gas pipeline. Even a modest rupture can spread freezing CO2 over a wide area within seconds. At high concentration, CO2 is a toxic gas and an asphyxiant capable of causing rapid circulatory insufficiency, coma, and death. And a potential contaminants in CO2 streams, such as hydrogen sulfide, can dramatically compound these risks. So next we'll be talking about what is blue hydrogen and green hydrogen. So hydrogen is the simplest element and the most abundant substance in the universe. Making hydrogen takes energy because hydrogen atoms don't exist on their own. Producing hydrogen and creating pure hydrogen requires breaking those molecular bonds. Hydrogen is produced by a process called electrolysis, when electricity is passed through a substance to force a chemical change. In this case, this means splitting H2O into hydrogen and oxygen. Blue hydrogen is produced from natural gas with a process called steam methane reforming. Green hydrogen is created when the energy used to power electrolysis comes from renewable sources like wind, water, and solar. So next we'll be talking about how and why blue hydrogen is not clean. So there's been some controversy over blue hydrogen because natural gas production inevitably results in methane emissions from so-called fugitive leaks, which are leaks of methane from the drilling, extraction, and transportation process. Methane does not last in the atmosphere as long as carbon dioxide, but it is more potent as a greenhouse gas. Over 100 years, on 1 ton of methane can be considered to be equivalent to 28 to 36 tons of carbon dioxide, according to the International Energy Agency. Creating hydrogen and transforming it into useful format requires energy, and that energy is not necessarily renewable. That process is also insufficient and expensive compared to with other forms of energy, renewable or not. Many critics say that hydrogen industry is a way for the oil and gas giants to stall the adoption of pure and renewable energy sources like solar and wind, giving them a green cover while still maintaining demand for their products. So lastly, I want to talk about what is a viable climate solution. The simpler, surer, and cheaper solution is to end this and similar subsidies for the fossil economy and invest in accelerating the transition to clean energy. Clean energy, also known as renewable energy sources such as solar and wind, don't emit carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases that contribute to global warming. Electricity from clean power sources like solar and wind has the potential to provide low carbon heat to many industrial systems. Renewables could supply 4/5 of the world's electricity by 2050, massively cutting carbon emissions and helping to mitigate climate change. But solar wind power has to fully be integrated with sustainable bioenergy, providing another key part of the mix. And that's all I have. Thank you.